Welcome to Ignite and Inspire, a podcast by entrepreneurs who were once in your shoes. My name is Tina Hamilton. I'm the CEO and founder of My HR Partner. All right, so today we have with us Dan Rhoton with HopeWorks, an organization out of Philadelphia, and I'm really excited to have you, Dan. Thank you for being here.
Excited to be here.
Dan is the CEO of HopeWorks, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about what you do there at HopeWorks.
Oh, sure. Fundamentally at HopeWorks, we do one thing, right? Young adults walk in typically full of drive, full of ambition, but chronically unemployed, making less than $400 a year, facing huge barriers just to come in the front door.
Okay.
When they walk out the door 10 months later, on average, they're making over $44,000 per year.
Wow.
Right. I know. It's awesome. I'm biased, but it's awesome. And in those jobs, they have over 90% retention rate, 12-month retention rate in those jobs.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we do. But,
Okay.
like, how we do it is important,
I'm
too,
very
right?
interested, yeah.
So, like a lot of places, folks walk in and we train them in technology, you know, front-end web development, geographic information systems, data analytics. But that's actually the least important part of what we do.
Okay.
While they're training with us, we're also working with them on the social, emotional, professional skills,
Okay.
getting them ready, you know, getting them, and also knocking down barriers. You know, what we know is you can have the best technical skills in the world, but if you don't have stable housing, you're not going to keep that job. You could be the best coder in the world, but if you don't know how to manage your emotions when you're frustrated or when things are hard, you're not going to keep that job. So we train them, we get them work ready, but here's the thing, then they're technical ready, they're work skills ready, but they still have no experience. So we hire them first. HopeWorks runs 2 revenue-producing technology businesses in web development, where we build websites for companies all over the country, and in GIS, digital mapping, and data analytics, where we do data analytics and digital mapping for Fortune 1000 infrastructure companies.
Whoa.
So yeah, and just in the last 12 months, we've paid over $1.3 million in wages directly to young adults from those businesses.
That's fascinating. And are you considered, you're a nonprofit?
So we're a nonprofit social enterprise. Now that's a lot of gibberish,
yeah,
but
yeah.
what that means is nonprofit is a tax status, right? That means that we
Okay.
don't exist to generate value for shareholders.
Okay.
But other than that, we're a business like anything else. Nonprofit, for-profit, that's just a tax status. Social enterprise means we use market forces and the power of business to do social good. Right.
Okay.
So we run our businesses and they generate profit, but that profit is plowed into paying wages and training young adults
Not
as
to-
opposed to increasing shareholder equity.
Got it. And so is it run by a board or how is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's a board of directors, just like every other nonprofit.
Okay.
Really, the key thing that makes us different is our revenue and service model.
Yeah, I never heard of anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. That's fascinating. And what's the history? Like, how did it begin, or do you know?
Oh, sure. So
Yeah.
HopeWorks started in the year 2000. It's a secular organization, but it was started by 3 churches. In the year 2000, folks were talking about Camden, much the way you hear people talk about Kensington now, right? It was
yeah,
the worst.
it's rough. It
and-
was, right?
absolutely. And so they knew they had to do something. It was the year 2000, so they said, let's do something with technology. So they got together and they started training young adults and youth in technology and computers and the internet, which, by the way, had just come out back then.
Right.
Now, that went on for about 2000 to 2012. And then 2012, the organization took a hard look and said, you know what, we're training folks in technology, but we're not changing lives. How do we give folks, they're leaving here, but they're getting the same jobs they would have before, right?
Okay.
How do we help them move forward? So HopeWorks did 2 big things. We moved to a trauma-informed approach, which means, it's a lot of fanciness, but basically what it means is when you're working with a young adult, you treat them like a human that has emotions and histories and families, and you acknowledge that that has an impact, good and bad
Wow,
sometimes.
yeah.
And we really doubled down on not just hoping they got jobs, but giving them their first job by building businesses ourselves.
Okay. And then, so let me just take it back a step. How are you finding the people? Like, how do you identify who qualifies to be in your program?
Yep. So the only qualification to start at HopeWorks is that you want to be there. You see, at HopeWorks, we're not just training tech workers, we're trying to end poverty. And you don't end poverty, we think, by only letting in the cream of the crop. You end poverty by letting in folks who are struggling. So the only requirement to start at HopeWorks is that you want to be there. Now, how they find out about us, 90% of our young adults are referred by another young adult.
Okay.
I mean, the real story of it is I remember I tell the story often. I was talking to one young adult who had just gotten this great job. He was making $50,000 a year. He was so excited. And I said, hey, man, tell me how you got to HopeWorks. How did you find out about us? Why did you decide to come? And I thought he was going to tell some inspirational story about HopeWorks or leadership or something.
Right.
He said none of those things. What he actually said is like, well, truthfully, you got my brother a job, and he's an idiot. So once you got him a job,
be a billboard.
Yeah, once you got him a job, I knew you could help me too. And that's how folks get to HopeWorks, right? Is somebody comes in who has been struggling to find employment, things have not been working out, and then they walk out making $45 a year. Of course, you're going to see their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their cousin, their brother, right? Because they know it works.
And
right?
is there an age look that
we focus on 17 to 27.
Okay, so you're taking young adults that might not have a chance otherwise. I'm assuming, like, they might not have gone to college, or no, does that matter?
So typically our typical profile is someone who's maybe not finished high school. We'll help them do that.
Okay.
Or maybe someone who has finished high school but got stuck, right?
Okay.
College didn't work out, or it wasn't a good fit, or they maybe have bounced. They're sick of a series of low-wage jobs, right? They're ready for something different. They come from all sorts of places. Kind of the things that are uncommon is, number one, things maybe haven't worked out to them up to this point, and number two, they're ready for something different, and that makes them awesome to work with.
Right. Yeah, they're probably so excited to have this opportunity.
And they take full advantage.
Is that right?
Man, I tell you, when we're talking to employers, I mean, it's they always say, like, when we're placing folks at companies, we're not going to tell you that our folks will be as good as your traditional hire. Our young adults are going to be way better. I mean, think about it. Like, think how many employers, as an entrepreneur yourself, how many times do folks say, oh, people don't want to work anymore. Oh, people don't want to go the extra mile. Oh, people don't want to stay late. Here's a young adult who up until now was working in an Amazon warehouse, who up until now was making ends meet any way he or she could.
Right.
Who do you want in the boardroom closing that deal? You want somebody who's had everything handed to them? Or you want somebody who knows what it is?
Right.
I'll tell you, the answer to that is clear for us.
And I absolutely love, embrace that you're working on their emotional side, because the biggest issue that employers have right now, especially with mental health issues, and I realize you're not a mental health organization, but
we work with it.
Do you work with it? Tell us about that, because that is fascinating to me. There's so many employees that probably, if they had the right support or whatever, but most businesses can't support that. They're trying to do their thing, their widgets, right?
Well, right. But what we know at HopeWorks, and we have the numbers to show it, is if someone gets terminated from a job, it is almost never because they didn't have the skills.
Okay.
It almost always is because there's housing's unstable.
Okay.
Or because they don't have the mental health or the social emotional skills.
Right.
And if you talk to most folks running companies, they'll even tell you, if somebody doesn't know JavaScript, but they take feedback well, they're eager to improve, and they're reliable, I'll teach them JavaScript. I'll teach them the skill they need, right? Okay. We see that time and time again, is that what employers say they want, but too often our schools and educational institutions don't listen, is employers want folks who know how to work with other people. Employers want folks who know how to take feedback, who are driven and ambitious.
Right.
If you have that, employers will often take them the rest of the way gladly.
Right,
we find.
Attitude's everything.
That's so true.
Right. But attitude isn't everything if you have social issues, because other employees can't deal, and they feel threatened or aggravated or stressed, and that's what makes it hard. So the fact that you're able to focus on those things. So how do you do it? Do you have psychologists on staff, or what exactly do you do to support that?
So, the first thing is in the training room when they're training with us, that's where we figure it out, right?
Okay.
What we know is that if you come into a place and you're trying to change your life and someone says, hey, are you experiencing homelessness? Or, hey, do you have any mental health challenges? Of course, you're going to say no.
That's true. Most people won't admit.
I wouldn't, right?
No,
and I talk for a living, and I wouldn't, right?
Right.
But here's what we do know, though, right? Is we know what it looks like. We know that when that young adult starts being late a lot, when that young adult maybe comes in and is reluctant to talk, or is maybe really low energy, we could label them as lazy or they don't want it, but we know that's not true, because we know they were incredibly courageous just to wake up and get through the door, right? So we know when those things start happening, that's when we know there's something else going on. That's when we know there's something emotionally, we know there's something with housing. And at that moment, when they're struggling, we come to them and say, hey, let's talk about how you're struggling. And you can see them tense up, because they know how this goes. They're about to get kicked out, because they've often been kicked out before, right? And then we say, we think something like this might be going on. How can we help? That changes everything, right?
No kidding. You give them permission, to be honest.
The analogy I've used with some folks is, it's like if you break your leg, right?
Right.
And it's hurting and you can't run. Right. And you go to the one place and they say, well, you're not running fast enough. You must not be ambitious. Well, you're like, I am ambitious, but I can't run fast. So you go to the second place and they say, well, you must not want this enough. I'll give you extra money, but you're still not running fast. You're like, I want the money, but I can't. And then you finally go to the place, the emergency room, and they say, oh my God, your leg's broken. It's impressive you got here at all. Hey, I got to tell you, there's nothing wrong with you. You're walking just like someone with a broken leg should walk. And in fact, and we know it's not your fault. We know what to do. We see this all the time. And you're going to have to work. You know, we're going to put a cast on. You have to do physical therapy. It's not going to be easy, but you're going to get better. Just imagine how different that feels.
Oh, wow, you're giving them hope.
That's it.
Works.
Because,
Right.
because, and all too
Right.
often our young adults have been told that they're lazy, they're bad, they're whatever. When in
right.
fact, right, they've been hurt and no one's taken the time to notice they've been hurt or to say it's not your fault and we can help.
That's right.
It makes all the difference.
That's fascinating. So they come to you through referrals.
Yep.
It sounds like a lot of referrals.
Lots.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I'm sure people have heard about you. I've heard about you, and I don't even live in Philly anymore. So you're training them, giving them a job, and then how long do they stay with you until they can get something else? Like, how does it work?
So they train with us for about 2 months.
Okay.
They earn a job with us, and I say earn because they have to interview, they have to get hired. And if they don't make the interview, we send them back to the training room. They're not ready.
I see.
They work for us for 6 months, and it is a job. They got to produce for clients. They have KPIs. And I'll say this, if they don't produce, they get fired. And one nice thing we say is you can get fired from your job. You can't get fired from HopeWorks because we know if we fire you from our business, that means we didn't do our job. We didn't cover. So we'll put you right back in the training room. We'll try it again. That's one reason why our success rate is so high.
And that happens.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Of course.
Because that's why they came, because they were struggling
Exactly.
to begin with. Wow.
And
so
we got-
you're not giving up on them.
Never.
You may be the only people that aren't giving up on them.
Well, you know, we find there's all sorts of folks pushing from moms and aunts and grandmas and grandfathers and fathers. But what we have is we have the business experience that we can give them, and that's usually the piece they're missing. They're not missing support often. They're not missing drive. They're often missing the business experience, and we can give them that.
Right.
So they work for us for 6 months. They get experience. They build a portfolio, and then a lot of times they just get a job on the market because now they're killing it. Other times we work with companies who often, every time we hear a company say, oh, it's hard to find good people, or, oh, I can't find folks to fill these roles, we start rubbing our hands together because we know we got the solution. So we work with companies directly who have that problem and where we place folks directly into companies. And then there's some companies that come to us and say, look, we have a specific need. We need folks with this particular skill, and we'll develop a custom training program just for that company as well.
No kidding.
So this year we'll place probably about 200 folks in jobs. And the math of that is killer. I mean, so folks go from making less than $400 a year to making over 44 grand. You do the math, 44,000 times 200 jobs. That's almost $9 million of additional wages going back to families in 1 year. I mean, it's fun.
And you're changing lives. Like you are changing lives and the trajectory of the future, maybe their family's future.
Well, and you know what? Because our young adults, I mean, here's the best part is we're not changing lives, but they are. Like they're changing theirs,
That's
and
a
then
good way to put it.
they change. We just kind of provide the space,
Right.
but they change their lives. They change their families' lives. They change their kids' lives. And here's the killer part: like we've had alumni come back who have started their own businesses, and when they choose to hire, they hire from HopeWorks. They're changing a
Wow.
whole nother generation.
Wow,
Right?
that's amazing.
It's fun.
So you must be connected to a lot of businesses in the Philadelphia area.
We are, and we're always looking for more, right?
is that right?
Like, yeah,
Okay.
because the fact is that we have a wait list right now today of 127 folks waiting to get started with us.
To have jobs with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So what kinds of jobs? I know you said websites, but what else? Like what are you doing? Yeah.
So the key thing we're looking for is we're always looking for living wage jobs.
Okay.
You know that. And folks have a hiring need. So we place a lot of folks in, you know, junior web developer, GIS technicians. We place a lot of folks in digital marketing. But you know what's interesting is a lot of times folks come to us not because they're into tech, but because they want a job and they heard they can get it. So we also have customized training programs. We place folks in technical customer support roles. We also place folks, interestingly, because GIS is digital mapping, we place a lot of folks in infrastructure jobs, person on the street jobs, digging for water mains and that kind of stuff. We've placed folks at the shipyards, right? Because again, what we know is, yeah, we teach them tech, but again, we talked about it. The most important thing we teach them is those social, emotional skills, right?
Right.
We find every employer's looking for that. So a lot of times folks come to us and say, look, I'm not into a computer screen, but I want a job. I hear you can get it. So we place folks in industries all over the region, actually.
And I would think that for an employer, just the fact that this person wants to be there, is working to improve themselves, that right there, they're getting a different quality of person.
Yeah, I mean, think about the candidate you're getting. You're getting someone who is unemployed. Usually, a lot of their friends are unemployed, right?
Right.
They make a decision to get up and say, hey, friends, hey, folks around me, I'm going to do something different than everything else you're going to do. And then I'm going to walk into this tech center in this place I've never been in. It's scary. It's intimidating, but I'm going to walk in anyway, and I'm going to get started. I'm going to do something no one in my family's done before. Of course you want to hire that person.
Right. Because they're
brave, they're bold, they're willing to
Right.
do it, right? Yeah, you tell me that person's going to be nervous on a sales call, they will be fine, right?
Right. So, wow, that's fascinating. So, because that's the one area of business that is it's really hard for people to find or even know. You know, you can be a great interviewer. I own a human resource outsourcing company, so we know a lot about hiring and maintaining employees and retention.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem is almost always, if there's problems, of course, it's attitude, desire, and I would imagine that sometimes your attitude and desire are down because of other factors. Basically, what you're saying, it could be homelessness, but it could be lots of other things, like you
Family
said,
issues,
social.
yeah,
and
social
I
issues.
don't know a single employer that would work with social issues. You know, like really invest in a person, because how could they?
Well,
Really,
and yeah,
right?
when we talked about how HopeWorks is a nonprofit social enterprise.
Right.
Businesses can't invest in social issues sometimes, not because they're bad people, but
No.
because they have to generate margins,
They
right?
have to, right.
Whereas what HopeWorks can do, we run a business just like lots of others, but because we're a nonprofit social enterprise, we can redirect those profits into helping our young adults heal and get ready.
unbelievable.
And then we can funnel them right into things and really help folks really live the lives they want to live.
And you don't have to fundraise right? Is that
Well, we do both,
you do
right?
both?
So the
Okay.
businesses run
Yeah.
like businesses. They employ our folks, and
Right.
the business have to pay the salary for their folks. But then we fundraise on the nonprofit side with donations and private grants to cover all that extra stuff, right?
That's
the
true.
mental health, the social
Right.
stuff, the housing. So that way, our business can stay competitive, right? Because we
Okay,
have to
yeah.
compete in the market. But
Right.
then we have the funding through our philanthropy to do all the other work we need to do to get them
Yeah.
ready.
That's amazing. Do you do any outreach at all?
So, I mean, that's a big part of what we do,
Oh,
right?
okay.
You know, like any other business, we have a sales team that's out there in the market selling.
Oh, okay.
So we have a business development team that's out there selling stuff. If you've seen Phil Abundance's website recently, that's one that we just finished. For
Is that
example.
right?
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to check that
Yeah, you
out.
should. It's awesome, but I'm clearly biased.
Yeah.
We also, and at the same time, we have folks like me. We have teams that are going out and finding employers, talking to them about what their needs are and seeing if we can help. We're always looking for that. And then finally, a big part of my role is helping folks. You know, so often we find folks who have achieved huge success. They're financially successful, they're business successful, and they're at that point. They're like, I have this success, but I don't know what the significance of it is. I've won the game of running a business. I've
Right.
won the game. How can I make a difference? And at HopeWorks, we are a significance engine. We can take your business knowledge and we can turn that into jobs for our young adults. We can take your financial success and with a donation, we can turn that into mental health services so they can get a job. So that's a big part too, is we're out there talking to folks who have achieved success but want to turn that into significance.
Turn into something else, and HopeWorks will allow them to do that.
We're a machine that can do that, right?
Right. That's beautiful. It's a good message, because a lot of people will be watching us are entrepreneurs, because that's part of the entrepreneur organization. We're going to be posting it out there. So there's that part of it, which I love that you shared. If they had a need for employees, like who fits? Like, you know, as far as like if I wanted to contact you and I need employees.
Mm-hmm. So here's what we're looking for,
Okay.
right? Is our best partners are folks who have three characteristics, right?
All right.
First, they have a need. They have an ongoing hiring need.
Okay.
We always say
ongoing. It's like
ongoing.
a position that's you're just always
Yeah,
filling.
if you have a one-off, we'll
Yeah.
do that too,
Yeah,
right? But
right.
we're going to be most beneficial if
Sure.
you're, every year you're hiring. And I always say, and don't do us a favor by hiring our young adults. They'll deliver for you, so it has to be a need.
Yeah.
Second thing we're looking for is folks that are, going to pay good wages, right? Our young
Right.
adults are competing in the market. There's folks out there. And so, we're looking for that living wage of $18, $19, $20, $21.
Right. You don't
per
want
hour.
them in a job. They could get a job
Bingo.
anywhere, right?
And
Wawa,
we're trying to
McDonald's,
change
right?
lives.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the third thing we're looking for is we're looking for employers who really understand that keeping their employees is the best way for their business success.
Yes.
Because we have a team that's going to work with them, understand their needs, deliver exactly the right candidates, and then that team is going to follow up with everyone we place for over 12 months.
Wow.
To make sure they stay. And the reason for that is to help the business, yes, but the other reason is because we're trying to change lives. And what we know from our data is if a young adult keeps a job for 12 months, they're going to keep a job forever.
No
Typically.
kidding.
Right?
That's the indicator.
Well, because you think about it, by that point you're paying rent, you got a mortgage maybe, you understand what it means. You're in this new life now.
Right.
But if you keep a job for 2 or 3 months, the odds of you backsliding into street money or doing something else is high, right?
Street money. That's what you call it. That's
Yep.
interesting. Okay.
So what we know is when street money covers, of course, selling stuff on the corner, it also covers folks who get stuck in trafficking situations. There's a lot of ways where folks who don't have money get stuck. And so we know if we can help them stay at the company for 12 months, they're going to stay, right? And they're going to grow. And that works for the employer. That works for our young adults. So we're going to
Win-win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's fascinating. So what's the future? Is there any changes coming up for HopeWorks, or are you continuing to keep doing this great work, or?
Well, so so we started in Camden in 2000.
Okay.
A year ago, we opened in Kensington. In the Kensington
yeah. A lot
neighborhood.
of focus on Kensington lately, I've been hearing.
Well, you know what? Because what we see is that's where the opportunity is. I mean, for folks who are looking for great hires, folks who are looking for folks who are going to drive your business, don't look, I'm being a little funny, don't look in Chestnut Hill where everybody has all the money they need.
That's a good point. Right?
Yeah, if you want hunger, if you want ambition, go to Kensington. Those are folks that are living, they're trying to change their neighborhood, trying to change their lives.
Right.
You're going to get great folks there. So that's where we are. But we also have folks coming from all over the city. Going forward, what we know is, like I said, we have 127 folks on our waiting list.
That's amazing.
So we're looking on the business side, we're looking for employers to help us employ more folks. On the donation side, we're looking folks to help us fund expanding our space in Kensington so we can get more folks in. Because what we know is Philly's huge potential. We also know Philly is the poorest big city in the United States, right? So
Is that right?
if we can start driving this and getting folks into good jobs, and we also know that people want to do business in Philly, but also all too often the reason they can't is they can't find people. Can't
That's
find
right.
people to work, right?
That's right.
So if we can solve that problem for them, we can also help solve the poverty problem at the same time.
Right.
And what we know is Philly, the biggest problems facing our city are not going to be solved by charity. They're going to be solved by business
Right.
and enterprise doing the thing. And we can help both, right?
Right.
And so that's what we're really excited
Teaching
about.
them how to fish. And right. And Philly lately, it's no secret that crime has been a significant issue. And so I imagine a program like yours could help make a little dent in that as well, getting people off the streets into jobs.
Well, and you know what? There's two things that happens, right? Is number one, our young adults get these great jobs, and you know what they do? They buy homes right in their neighborhood, right?
That makes
So
sense.
already the neighborhoods are stabilizing. And here's the other thing it does, is it's just like that story I told about the guy who saw his brother get a job. The impact of when someone who was sitting next to you the day before doing something negative, when that person's suddenly making 50 grand a year, it changes your whole imagination of what might be next for you.
Wow.
Gives you hope, right?
I love that.
And when you see that your life could be different because their life is different, suddenly you're going to act differently too. And we see that time and time again.
Your job must be so rewarding
It's
watching
awesome.
this. I
It's
mean,
awesome.
I'm like in awe of what you get to do. And
Well,
yeah.
Man, picture this. Like, picture this job, right? This is
Right.
an awesome job. So every day I'm working with young adults who are the most courageous people I've ever met, who are stepping in, changing lives.
Yeah.
Killer, right?
Right.
When I'm not doing that, I am talking to people like yourself,
Right.
successful business people, philanthropists, donors, folks who could be buying a yacht or could be flying a spaceship and instead are coming to Camden, instead are coming to Kensington to help people change their lives.
Amazing.
And if I'm not talking to that group, I'm talking to the staff at HopeWorks, who are some of the smartest, most capable professionals in the world, who, again, could work anywhere.
That's right.
And have
Yeah.
chosen to work in Camden and Kensington to help the world be better. Like, I do not have to talk to Darth Vader as part of my everyday life, right?
Right.
This is a pretty good crew.
Yeah, I mean that's just it's everything, right? I
Yep.
mean that's if you can make change in the world, I mean what else
That's it.
What gets better than that?
When that's the best part too about my job is because I get to do it every day, but then I get to invite other people to do it with us.
Right.
And that's the killer part, right?
And
Is you
watch
get to-
them
yeah.
become successful and go somewhere and do things.
And I get to that, yes, and then I get to watch too. I get to watch business leaders and companies who always wanted to do good, but were stuck how to do it. I get to watch the shine on their faces when they're like, "We're doing it! Like we're doing our business goal, and we're changing lives at the same time."
Yeah.
Boom!
Wow.
It's fun.
Wonderful. I'm thrilled that you were here. This is so interesting to me, what you're doing. And I'm sure a lot of other people will agree in watching this. And thank you, Dan, for everything you're doing.
Oh, what a joy to be here.
Yeah,
This
for
is
being
awesome.
here. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Nice.
If you'd like to know more about Entrepreneurs Organization or EO Accelerator or EO Ignite, go to eophiladelphia.com.